Anyway, I'm a maths teacher and I was asked to do a lesson bringing LGBT themes into maths. And I was looking at the newspaper report about Pride. I live in Brighton down there, and I was looking at a report of the Pride Festival. Who knows what a Pride Festival is? Pride festivals happen all over the country. I just picked a dozen, and I had this idea that the bigger the city, the bigger the crowd will be at Pride. And I thought I can use maths to see whether that's true, whether my hypothesis, you come across that word, hypothesis, whether my hypothesis is correct. Right, so I had this idea that big cities would have bigger crowds going to Pride. What sort of maths could I use to test my hypothesis? How many people went to all these Pride festivals 2 years ago, 2010? I have somebody from this side of the room. Now, I said 250,000 for the entire population. I reckon about 200,000 would be adults. So just take anyone under 18, take them out of the equation. 40,000 LGBT adults out of 200,000. What percentage is that? A fairly narrow band. Again, it's difficult to estimate. Does anyone know how many percent? Most people say on 10%. 1 person in 10 is lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans.
Because women, how do we know men? How do we identify that that was a man? Yeah. Because he spoke. Because he spoke. Okay, so by the voice, right? We identified it. Anything else why we identified them as men? Yeah.
Body features.
What features? Anything particular?
No.
So nothing in particular. Look at that picture there. What's being portrayed here? So something different. Let's just look at here, Jack. Drag queens. Well done. I think I'll have a little round of applause for that. Well done. So drag queens. Someone mentioned it earlier on. Talking about the Queen moving the procession. That's why I was laughing so much, because you will get lots of drag queens in Pride procession. So drag means it's old Polari speak, so dressed as a girl. So it's a man, yeah, dressed as a woman. Right, so we talked about, so it could be gay. What else? Bisexual. Someone said transsexual. Someone just say that. Transvestite. Okay, brilliant. These are beautiful words that you are coming up with.
What did you say? Transit back.
Transvestite is like they dress up as. But transgender is actually when they're uncomfortable with their body and want to change themselves. Oh, come on!
Nice, all transgender, right, we've just fed so beautifully into my next question. That could not have been any better. How does it relate to gender? Call it gender bread. So let's have a look. This is how you can break it down. Sort of have a look at how people identify. So, gender identity. So how you identify. So in your head, right, how you think about yourself. So I think about myself as a woman. I dress like a woman, I think that I am a woman, I know that I'm a woman, I want to be a woman. I know I'm perfectly comfortable with that. That's not always the case. Lots of people are in between. So we go all the others then the spectrum, so if not female then we've got to be
a man.
A man. And in between, we're going to use this word. Genderqueer. Do you want to tell what asexual is?
It's where you've got no sexual orientation and you're not bothered about being homosexual.
Squishies. This is great. Squishies and gender fluid.
Yeah, and a pansexual, a bisexual person would be like, let's say, men and women, but a pansexual person would be like gender blind, and they don't necessarily care.
Right, the answer's on the way now. Ready? Here's the answer. 2 more points for things that you've learned today. So did we know everything? No.
I learned about intersex.
Intersex, great, good. One more thing that we've learned in the session, yes?
Pansexual.
That's it. Having cake and eating cake is a little bit cool. I know what you're saying. But if you have relationships, I think it's about relationships that you have. So if you have relationships with men, you have relationships with women. I think you're perfectly.
I would see myself as bisexual.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the way to do it.
many different backgrounds, from grammar school educated sons of miners like Roy Jenkins to public school boys such as Stuart Miller-Barry and Dilly Knox. About 2/3 of the workforce were female.
As a maths teacher, this has been a really, really special day for me. I feel so privileged to have seen all this and taught in the music room, wasn't it? Diversity and maths aren't what you immediately think would go together. I remember starting my teacher training and I remembered something a previous Prime Minister had said. Anti-racist maths? People wasting money on that? Goodness. Who do you think that might have been? Margaret Thatcher. Oh, it's a panto season almost. Margaret Thatcher.
We have to be taking a whole school approach, and that's why it's really, really important, because what you're trying to do is, this is institutional change. I know you might be surprised to hear that schools are homophobic places. Did you know that? It's quite, but on different levels, everywhere is different. My school, obviously, was 2005. I don't think it is homophobic anymore because of all the work we've done, which you can see. However, I'm starting all over again now in schools in Birmingham. I'm working with 20 different schools, and it is like going back, and I really, really am starting at the very, very, very beginning. And to the point where what I'm trying to do is talk to this. I go straight back to this to start off with, which is, these are the 7 protected characteristics from the Equality Act. And what I get them to do is put it on the school code, because that's really important. So in our school, we respect everybody. That's everybody on this list. And when I show this to staff, what do you think the reactions that I get? Yes, like it's brand new information. And which is quite incredible, because this came out in 2010, as I'm sure we all know in this room, we're all enlightened people, I think. So I asked them then, well, which one of these do you do really well in your school? And most of it's like, well, we do race and nationality, we do religion, we do those really well, but nothing else for any of us particularly. So what we've got to do is try and bring those in. We've now got December, which is Disability Month in the UK. So that's one thing we can do. Obviously, February, LGBT History Month, we've got Gypsy Roma Traveller Month, Women's History Month as well in March. So we can use all these fantastic focus months for all of these different protected characteristics.
Yonder come day, day is dawning. Yonder come day, in my soul. Yonder come day, day is dawning. Sun is rising in my soul. Yonder come day, day is dawning. Yonder come day, in my soul. Yonder come day, day is dawning. Sun is rising in my soul. Yonder day is dawning. Yonder day in my soul. Yonder day is dawning. Sun is rising in my soul. Yonder come day, day is dawning. Yonder come day, in my soul. Yonder come day, day is dawning. Sun is rising in my soul. Yonder come day, day is dawning. Yonder in my soul. Yonder come day, day is dawning. Sun is rising in my soul. Woo! Grandma asked Mum, ooh, if I had a boyfriend. Mum said I was gay. Grandma said, has she got a girlfriend then? Grandma asked Mum, Grandma asked Mum, boyfriend. Grandma asked boyfriend. Mum said I was gay, girlfriend. Mum said I was gay, girlfriend. Grandma said, has she got a girlfriend then?
I should just mention that there were all sorts of extraordinary people at Cambridge in the 30s when Turing was there. And here's Charlie Broad, who was also gay, I should say. And he did work. He did have something to say about emergence way back in the 1920s. And I don't know if Turing and Charlie Broad ever knew each other at all, but I'm sure Turing would have known him, and I've yet to see any evidence.
One of my main roles is I'm the area coordinator for the LGBT support network, gays and lesbians in the prison cells. And we offer staff support for those who identify as LGBT and have need of support in the workplace. We also support members of staff and family who identify as LGBT. We do a great deal of community engagements such as pride events, agenda events, Stonewall Equality Index, Trans Remembrance Day, Idaho, and LGBT History Month. Each year, the prison service attends prides in the areas around the country, and we don't just do big ones, like London and Brighton. But we do smaller local ones too, like the Truro a couple of years ago, which is amazing. We were honoured to be asked to attend the first Milton Keynes Parade this year in August, and we hope to attend next year. It was an amazing day, and the organisers should be really proud of what they did.
This work forms part of my strategic practice for the museum, which is about finding new ways of ensuring the stories that the museum tells are inclusive, and without further marginalising people by creating kind of community ghettos in the building. This is where we have the special exhibition about marginalised people. It was in the course of these discussions that we met a quite remarkable gentleman called Keith Dye. He sadly died last week. He was a geographer, an activist, a raconteur, a lover, a friend, and he had an incredible story to tell of his life as a gay man during the very period Alan Turing was criminalised for his sexuality. What struck me about thinking how to conclude this with you today is to say that when we tell the story of Turing, it is at once remarkable, and yet it can also be for every man, for every gay man. It could easily have been the story of Keith. And so can I ask you to remember the untold LGBT histories as well?
It's 2012. That's the centenary year of Alan Turing's birth. And as you all know, he, amongst many others, made a very significant contribution to the code-breaking effort here at Bletchley Park during the Second World War. I wanted to look a little bit at 2012, and I also want to look back at some other years in history. 2012's been a very important year for the UK. There are various things that no doubt you've been thinking about. One of them, of course, is the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. She was in Kenya at the time that she found that her father had died in 1952, and unfortunately it's the day that she got off the plane back in the UK to assume the crown of the United Kingdom. That very same day was the day that the police came and knocked on Alan Turing's door in Manchester. You know the story. My grandfather had left Alan his gold watch, and this, along with some minor items, had been stolen from Alan's house by a local petty thief who was acting in cahoots with a young man that Alan had picked up in a pub. Alan, being a geek and rather unworldly, and I would also say deeply upset about the watch, Alan had gone to the police, and of course the police were very much more interested in the sexual practices of an FRS who was working on a mechanical brain and had been giving talks about it on the wireless. And of course, as you all know, this led to the eviction from Gross Indecency, this course of hormone so-called therapy, which caused him, amongst others, breasts, and in my opinion, that was a lead cause of his suicide in 1954. Now, in 1952, Alan Turing was sentenced under the terms of the Criminal Justice Act of 1948. And this may seem quite remarkable from the distance of time that we look back at it, but it was actually quite a progressive piece of legislation. Allow me to tell you about sections 1, 2 and 3. Section 1 abolished penal servitude and hard labour. Section 2 abolished whipping. Alan was dealt with under Section 3. Section 3 beefed up the ability of the court to award probation as an alternative to a prison sentence. And until the 1948 Act, courts really hadn't been able to attach conditions to probation orders, but the reformed law allowed the sentencing judge to, quote, require the offender to comply with such requirements as the court considers necessary for securing the good conduct of the offender or preventing repetition of the same offence. Now, I don't imagine that even back in 1948 that Parliament had in mind that these requirements would involve anything much more than residential conditions or supervision. The idea that a course of hormone injections could be imposed seems to me to be contrary to the principles that Parliament was trying to lay down, and these days, of course, would be contrary to the Human Rights Act. So I think there's a whole question mark about sentencing policy in those days, and unfortunately my researchers this year haven't been able to get to the bottom of that. It's only 2 months after Alan Turing's death in 1954, in the very last days of Churchill's last premiership, that a committee was set up under Sir John Wolfenham to consider the law and practice relating to homosexual offences and the treatment of persons convicted of such offences in courts. Anyway, as I said, we've come a long way since 1952. 2012 has been a great year for things to celebrate, and one thing I wanted to mention in particular, and going back to Ian mentioned this in his presentation at the very beginning this evening, I wanted to mention another aspect of the speech that was given in Leeds last month by the director of GCHQ. He was paying an important centenary tribute to Alan Turing, but he also made the keynote of his address the importance of finding talent and skills in diversity. And that was something which Bletchley Park had succeeded in doing during the wartime, even if those values were lost sight of in the post-war years. And I think it's a great note to finish on that Bletchley's diversity culture is now regarded as being exemplary, and it's being drawn on as a model for current civil service recruiting drive. You may have seen adverts in things like Week and The Economist and so forth, and other perhaps sort of even geekier things that you might read. And I think that's a very good and positive note on which to finish, and a good and positive note on which to finish this evening as well. Thank you very much.
The powerhouse behind that's 2 people. They're sitting here at the front. I'm going to ask them to just come up here, if nothing else, just to be seen. The names are up here. Tony Fenwick. Thank you so much for what you're
Okay, thank you. Well, in the interests, well, I have to say that I had an English lecturer when I was at university who said to me that the secret of a good novel was 3 things. First of all, you take the audience. 1, you make them laugh. 2, you make them cry. 3, you give them a hard-on. Now, in the interests of being inclusive, I have to say that I think all of us have achieved 2 of those 3 things today. Ellie talked to us about the importance of what she does in schools, and Nigel talked about the importance of bringing LGBT issues into the curriculum and how easily it could be done. They both made us laugh, but Ellie also reminded us that attacking homophobia and eradicating homophobia in schools is about saving lives. If you enjoyed yourselves today, if you had a good time, let us know. Thank you.
We couldn't do what we've done today and all the years that we've gone by. This is our 9th LGBT History Month, and it's a very emotional night for me because I've taken a step back, Tony's taken a step forward. Next year, Ellie's going to take a giant step, and we're going to be doing music. We've done 3 hard years, 2 on sport, and this is maths and science, and it's quite challenging. We're going to go home a bit with music, I think, but Ellie will do all sorts of really wonderful, amazing things. We couldn't do it without you. There's been a family, in a sense, in this building, which made this country safe. We'd like it to be a lot safer for a lot more people. It hadn't. When you think what we were trying to do in this building to make this country safe, we didn't do it as well as we could. You people will leave tonight, I hope, inspired, excited and informed, and work with us, and with all the other marvellous groups that you work with, to make sure that we pass on a safer, happier, more visible space for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans people of all shades, of all ages, of all our diversities.
That's our game, that's our goal, that's our job, and you guys will move us on and make it happen. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please celebrate.
Oh, it's got all the Polari in it. I wonder where he picks it up.